Hello everyone, welcome to today's Daily News Decoded. My name is Rajat and today we will be discussing the articles which you can see on the screen. The first article is Role of Agriculture in Viksit Bharat. The second, Distinguished Jurists as Supreme Court Judges. The third, The Doctrine of the Rarest of the Rare. The fourth, Bail Provisions under the PMLA Act. PMLA means the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. And fifth, the statistics and the basics of coffee production. Now, let's start with the first article, that is Fields of Viksit Bharat. The article here particularly discusses how technology can solve perennial problems of agriculture, and these perennial problems relate to productivity and specifically increasing productivity. How will it lead to a Viksit Bharat? Now this article can be linked to GS paper 3. The syllabus point particularly is the e-technology in the aid of farmers and also technology missions in agriculture. We have also listed a few previous year questions here, such as how does e-technology help in farmers in production and marketing of agricultural produce? Second, how can Digital India program help farmers to improve farm productivity and income? What steps has the government taken in this regard? Do try to attempt these and also make your notes out of these two questions. Decoding the news now. The path to Viksit Bharat goes through India's fields. Viksit Bharat has to be an inclusive Bharat, and in India to be an inclusive Bharat and also a developed Bharat, we need that agriculture also needs to grow. And why is that? Because agriculture constitutes around 80% of the GDP. Along with that, it employs around 43% of the population. 43% of the working population. So these data points are from the economic survey. So here we find a link, that is, for India to be a developed country, it has to increase the per capita income. And almost most of the workers are in the agricultural sector. So increasing the productivity of agriculture can be the fastest way to increase India's growth. So that is why we see there is a direct link between the agricultural sector and India becoming a Viksit Bharat. And apart from that, for agriculture to go into high growth orbit, we need technology solutions. These technology solutions are touted that they will solve the problems of agriculture. And the article in the context discusses few technologies which will solve the problems of agriculture. Now discussing a particular point, as in why is the productivity in agriculture low? What are the specific reasons? And here first we will go through the data points. How will you prove that India's agricultural productivity is less as compared to the other countries? And apart from that, we will also discuss certain causes, starting with the data point. In data point, we will be using two crops, that is wheat and paddy, also called as rice. Under the wheat segment, we have seen that the world average has been 3,400 kgs per hectare, the productivity, whereas in India we have around 3,000 kgs per hectare. But if we compare with countries like China, China has an agricultural productivity of 5,400 kgs per hectare. So this proves that we have a lot of ground to capture in agricultural productivity. Similarly, talking about paddy or rice, in paddy we find that the world average is 4,500 kgs per hectare, whereas India's is 3,700 kgs per hectare, whereas of China's is around 6,000 kgs per hectare. Now one can see the differences between the productivity levels. So this is why we need to increase the productivity, and increasing in productivity will result in food security, increased income, price stability, and also rural development. So all these things can help in addressing the rural poverty as well. So this makes productivity an important issue. Now jumping on to the causes of less productivity in Indian agriculture. The causes for less productivity in agricultural sector are: number 1, the population pressure. Number 2, land degradation. Number 3, the land tenure. Number 4, agricultural credit. Number 5, irrigation. Apart from these, there are certain other reasons such as low seed replacement rate, number 2, soil erosions. Then there is the issue of soil pollution, and then groundwater availability. Here there are certain structural issues such as the land tenure system. This points out that the land holding is highly fragmented, and fragmented land holding results into small and marginal farmers, and small and marginal farmers do not have the capacity to invest in farm mechanization and adopt technology practices. So that is why it is said that land reforms should precede technology reforms. So here we have discussed the causes for low productivity in agriculture, but now we will be focusing on the article at hand. The article mentions 7 important dimensions in which we should invest so that our agriculture becomes highly productive and it contributes in India becoming a developed economy. So first is AI in agriculture. AI can be used in weather forecasting, pest detection, crop yield optimization, etc. And the article mentions that countries like US are already adopting AI in agriculture, and it suggests that India needs to develop its vernacular AI solutions or AI models so that it can be scaled up and diverse population can adopt it, and there are no language barriers as such. The second is regenerative agriculture. The regenerative agriculture tries to address the issue of soil erosion, land degradation, and it tries to mitigate the problems created by excessive use of chemical fertilizers. The article mentions that biodiversity preservation along with agriculture is possible, and the regeneration agricultural practices are the important way forward. Then the third dimension here is robotics. The article mentions that due to high cost and supply of labor, adoption of robotics into agriculture has not been fast enough, and it mentions that here we need to invest in, and the article mentions that for faster adoption we need to invest in public private participation so that there is enough research and development along the robotics and the solution can be scaled. The fourth here is alternative protein. The article mentions that the regions like EU are investing in lab grown protein. As consumer habits shift, as the disposable income increase, there will be growing demand for proteins, and lab grown proteins are an next frontier in agriculture. The fifth point mentioned in the article is about digital twins. So digital twins as a technology gives us a model which can be tested, and here technologies and solutions can be tested beforehand. Its adoption in India has been slow. Countries like US have already adopted digital twin. Digital twin boosts productivity by faster adoption of tech solution. Then the article mentions about blockchain. The blockchain can be used in food traceability. India again has a limited adoption. China, as a case study, you can use these examples of US, EU and China, where blockchain is being adopted for food traceability, and this leads to increase in exports. Increase in exports lead to increase in revenues, and increase in revenue leads to better price discovery. The last is climate smart agriculture. The article argues that investment in climate smart agriculture is crucial because of the climate change, and agriculture is one of the most vulnerable sectors in the face of climate change, and it argues that we should invest in micro drip irrigation, and increasing the reach of irrigation can mitigate the impact of climate change. It can increase the adaptability of the seed varieties. Here at last we have tried to mention certain value additions, wherein the theme of technology and agriculture comes up. DPI in agriculture, also called as Agri stack. These can be used as examples in your answers. Agri stack, wherein all stakeholders from the agricultural sector, these are farmers, supply chain and logistics of agriculture, fertilizer companies, agri startups, all these are brought on one centralized platform, and here they solve the basic problems in agriculture through scaling and finding solutions through data driven approach. Then here is SMAM. This means submission on agriculture mechanization. Here you can mention the custom hiring centers, where small and marginal farmers, they can use custom hiring centers for increasing farm mechanization. Then farm machinery banks. This is a scheme which is applicable in certain very challenging areas, for example the hilly states. Here the government provides incentive for farm mechanization, and additional support is provided apart from the custom hiring centers. Then the scheme of Drone Didi, it fulfills two objectives, that is farm mechanization, adoption of technology plus women empowerment. Then FPOs. As we all know, the agricultural sector is highly fragmented. So fragmented agricultural sector, fragmented land holding. So the solution right now for fragmented land holding is cooperatives and FPOs. Here we try to pool the lands, try to pool the resources and achieve economies of scale. And this can make farming more remunerative. So these are few examples which you guys can use in your answers. And now we have a practice question for you. So it is, what role can agriculture play in making India a developed country? Please use the content as discussed in the video and try to answer this question, and do post it in the comment box. The second article now, which is distinguished jurists as judges. The context here is the judicial vacancies leading to judicial pendency. The Indian judicial system is plagued by high rate of pendency, and the reason, one of the reasons for high pendency is the vacancy in the higher judiciary, and this is leading to delay in justice. So the author of the article tries to present an innovative solution, and the solution is appointing distinguished jurists as judges, and this will increase the number of judges, and this can then impact upon the pendency. The relevance in the examination remains that you can use distinguished jurists can be appointed as judges as one of the value addition points for your answer writing purpose. Here we have a previous year question asked in mains 2017, which is critically examine Supreme Court's judgment on National Judicial Appointment Commission Act with reference to appointment of judges of higher judiciary in India. Appointment of judges, as you must have seen in the news as well, is one of the most important themes. Here we find questions such as the collegium system, the working of the collegium system, the concept of judicial accountability and judicial independence. These principles are often repeatedly asked in the examination, so one should have a comprehensive view of these themes. But we, for the sake of the article, will be focusing upon the judicial pendency, certain causes, a few data points, and also the solution, that is appointing distinguished jurists as judges of the higher judiciary. The context now. The critical aspect of any justice delivery system remains timely delivery of justice. But the Indian judicial system is plagued by crisis of backlog. And one of the reasons for the backlog is judicial vacancies. So the data point here, which you can also use for in your answers, is as of January 1, 2025, around 371 posts are vacant against 1122 posts in high courts. Whereas the Allahabad High Court is functioning at its 50% capacity, and to address the issue of judicial pendency, we have seen that the recommendations of the collegium system are being fastly approved by the government, but the pace of retirement of judges is not being matched by the appointment process. So that is why there is always a shortage of number of judges. So what is the impact of this? There is enormous strain on the judges as there is increased workload. The time they are able to give to a certain case, the depth with which they are able to analyze the case is reduced. So this impacts the quality of delivery of justice. Therefore, a well-staffed judiciary functioning at its near total strength is very crucial. Here and now, the author mentions an innovative solution, which is appointing distinguished jurists as judges of the higher judiciary. And who are distinguished jurists? They are persons with exceptional expertise, knowledge and contributions in the field of law and jurisprudence. And there is a provision in the constitution itself. In the article, this is the provision of the constitution as mentioned in the screen, article 124 clause 3 and here clause C. Here we see that in the opinion of the president, if the person is a distinguished jurist, he or she can be appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court. So this is in article 124 clause 3 clause C. But there was also another provision, namely article 217 clause 2 clause C. But this clause, this particular clause of the article stands repealed. So these provisions allowed for appointment of individuals who in the opinion of the president are distinguished jurists as judges of High Court as well as the Supreme Court. But unfortunately, this article of the Supreme Court has not yet been used, and the article empowering the appointment of a distinguished jurist as a judge of a High Court has been repealed. So no jurists up till date has been appointed as a judge. Till date, it has only been the practitioners from the bar and from the judicial services that the members of the higher judiciary are recruited. So here we have mentioned that no jurist has been found to be distinguished enough to be appointed at this post, and other countries, there are other countries like US, Poland, Kenya, Thailand and Spain who appoint distinguished jurists at this position. So now the next slide, here we will be discussing what are the benefits of having distinguished jurist as a judge and what are the challenges posed in case if we want to appoint a judge as a distinguished jurist as a judge. So the benefits. So the jurists have a vast pool of knowledge. So here we have mentioned specialized knowledge. Then they have research based critical thinking and expertise. And what can this do? This can provide unique insights and it can provide any missing dimension to judiciary's understanding of socio-economic problems, and it can influence legal education And then it will help in filling judicial vacancies, it will impact the backlogs, and it will also strengthen judicial independence. Then we have challenges. What are the challenges in case a distinguished jurist is being appointed as a judge? Here, it is felt that the procedural know-how of the jurist will not be equal to the other judges, and then less courtroom experience. So, understanding the limits to the exercising of judicial power, and then resistance among the status quoist. What does this mean? So, the present administration, the present way in which the things are functioning, so there will be a resistance to jurists being appointed as judges. So, these are the challenges in implementing this solution. Then at the last, we will be discussing what are the reasons for the pendency. So, the reasons for the pendency, number one, we have discussed already, that is the shortage of the judges. And then the government being the biggest litigant. One of the largest litigant here is in the Indian judicial system is the government itself, and there are petty issues for which we have seen that government and the other parties are engaged in litigation. So, government being the biggest litigant here, repeated and frequent adjournments in the courts, ineffective investigation, specifically in the criminal justice system, ineffective investigation leads to delay in court proceedings. Here we have vacation. The Supreme Court effectively functions for an average of 188 days. So, due to vacation, the number of cases which can be admitted are reduced. Then, poor infra and poor budget. This impacts judicial functioning because of lower staff and the other associated reasons, due to which efficiency of the judicial system is reduced. Then, judicial activism. Specifically, we can mention PIL and special leave petition. So, these two form around 40% of backlog or pendency in Supreme Court. And then there is the efficiency of the lower court. Because the lower courts don't function properly, for example, in case of bail, earlier the former Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud noted, because the lower courts are refusing bail, these applications then find their way to the higher judiciary, and then higher judiciary has to entertain bail petitions as well. So, these are the major reasons due to which there is a high pendency rate in Indian judiciary. So, what are its impact? Broader impact is poor conviction rate, and then less time for constitutional cases, then trust of the public is eroded. So, you can mention such points here. Now, concluding the article with the practice question, we have mentioned two practice questions. You can list out what are the steps taken to address the issue of judicial pendency in India. Here you can mention issues such as e-courts, alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, Gram Nyayalay. So, you can mention all these points here. Then the second one, the Indian judiciary has often faced criticism for its closed appointment process, particularly with regards to non-inclusion of the distinguished jurist in the higher judiciary. On the part of inclusion, other points which can be mentioned are representation of women in the Indian judiciary, representation of maybe transgenders and other vulnerable sections of the population apart from distinguished jurist, and how the process of appointment can be made more transparent and efficient. So, this is all in this topic. Let's move for the next topic. Starting with the next article, which is the rarest of the rare test. Three keywords have been in news. The number one is rarest of the rare. Second is aggravating circumstances. And then mitigating circumstances. The session courts in Kolkata has sentenced the rape case convict to life sentence whereas the CBI had pleaded for death penalty for the accused. So this is from the larger theme of death penalty. Death penalty is an important area from where questions can occur, specifically about the case laws. Starting with the article, decoding the news. So Supreme Court in Bachchan case, Supreme Court held that death sentence should only be passed in the rarest of the rare, and the court, while considering the rarest of the rare case, has considered possible aggravating circumstances and mitigating circumstances. Now the aggravating circumstances tilt the judgment till the verdict towards the death penalty, whereas the mitigating circumstances tilts the verdict away from the death penalty. And then the judgment and the subsequent judgments have pointed out an exhaustive list from where what all conditions fall under aggravating circumstances and the mitigating circumstances, starting with the rarest of the rare. Here the death penalty should only be imposed in the rarest case when there is no possibility of reform. And to judge this test, there are aggravating circumstances and mitigating circumstances. Now, what all falls under the aggravating circumstances? Here we will find that in case the murder is pre-planned, if it is calculated and it is carried out with extreme brutality, and there is exceptional depravity, and in case if it is a murder of public servant, police officer, army officer on duty, or it is associated with an act done by the officer in official capacity. Now, similarly, there are certain mitigating circumstances as well. Now, in mitigating circumstances, usually these are the circumstances which tilt the judgment away from death penalty. These are in case the person under trial was under extreme mental and emotional disturbance while committing the act, and if the age is very young, there is probability of reform, in case the perpetrator was acting on direction of others, and they believe that their actions were justified, and in case of mental issues. This is not a complete list, yet these are well accepted mitigating and aggravating circumstances. So these circumstances are kept in mind before giving the verdict for death penalty. And the article mentions that there should be a uniform policy Because right now, even after Bachchan Singh case, there has been subjectivity in whether a certain case falls under aggravating or mitigating circumstances, and there has been variations in the judgment and award of death penalty. So this was all in this article. Here we have mentioned a practice question for you. Please do answer this and mention it in the comment box. Starting with the next article, which is bail under PMLA. Supreme Court has recently granted bail under PMLA to a woman. So this has brought into light the section 45 of PMLA. PMLA is Prevention of Money Laundering Act. And the act is known for its stringent bail provisions. But in the act, there is an exception where bail can be granted on certain grounds, which are discussed in this article. For example, here it is mentioned the PMLA and exception. The section 45 of PMLA, which provides for bail, puts the onus on the accused to seeking the bail to prove there is no prima facie case against them. So the onus under PMLA for bail is on the accused, that there is no prima facie case against them. This is similar to stringent laws such as Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. The section 45 also says that the public prosecutor will be given an opportunity to oppose the application of the bail, and when the public prosecutor opposes the application, the court is satisfied that there are reasonable grounds to believe that he is not guilty. First of all, the accused has to say that there is no prima facie case against them. Then he has to prove that he or she is not guilty of such offence and is not likely to commit any offence on bail. So these are the two conditions which I have mentioned in the PMLA. However, there is an exception. So this is what we need to prepare, the exception. What are the exceptions? Exceptions are minor, women, and sick people. Courts in earlier cases have denied bail to women whom the court considers are not vulnerable women. So it is not in the law that there is a category of vulnerable woman and an educated woman, but the court had considered it earlier that the bail can be denied on grounds if the woman is not vulnerable. So from this article, what are the basics that one needs to know? So we boil down to 2 to 3 things. These are: number 1, a brief information about what is PMLA, what is its objective. Then second, information about Enforcement Directorate. Then third, basic knowledge of bail related provisions. So let's start. Decoded, first is the PMLA, then the Enforcement Directorate, and then the bail. Starting with PMLA. So PMLA is a legal framework to protect against money laundering. It empowers ED to investigate offences, and also it empowers ED to attach property. The section 3 of PMLA says that if any person is directly or even indirectly involved in transferring the proceeds of crime or concealing the proceeds of crime. So here the important word is indirectly. So it is not that the person should be only directly linked to the crime. If even indirectly linked, someone can be found guilty under the act. Then the punishment under the act is from 3 to 7 years, and here of imprisonment plus fines. The section 45 which we discussed specifically is about the offences and the bail provisions. The offences under this act are cognizable plus non-bailable. Non-bailable means the bail is not a matter of right, rather it depends upon the court. It's not the duty of the court to provide bail under these act. And then for bail, as we discussed, the onus lies on accused to prove that there is no prima facie case against them. There are certain exceptions, as we discussed. These exceptions are minor, that is less than 16 years of age, women and sick people. These are the basic informations which one needs to know about the PMLA. Then the Office of Institution of Enforcement Directorate. It is a Enforcement Directorate is a financial law enforcement agency. It is an economic intelligence agency. The administrative control of ED lies with the Department of Revenue, which comes under the Ministry of Finance. The ED's director is appointed under the CVC Act. CVC is the Central Vigilance Commission Act. And the central government appoints the ED's director on the recommendation of a committee. And who all are the members of this committee? Number 1, the CVC, that is Chief Vigilance Commissioner. He is the chairperson. Then there are other vigilance commissioners, and third, secretaries of Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Personnel and Ministry of Finance. Now coming at the mandate. The mandate of the act, the mandate of the agency is to enforce Foreign Exchange Management Act of 1999. Second, the PMLA of 2002. And third, Fugitive Economic Offenders Act of 2018. So the ED is responsible for the enforcement of these 3 acts. Now certain knowledge points about bail. So what is a bail? Bail is a provisional release of accused, which means that the person is not yet convicted. He or she is under trial. Fine. Then there are certain provisions which are bailable. Certain acts which are bailable. Under such offences, under bailable offences, the bail is a matter of right, which means that it is the duty of the judicial system to provide bail. Then there are non-bailable offences. Under these offences, it is not a matter of right to seek bail, rather it depends upon the judge to decide, to grant bail. Then apart from these, there is a term known as anticipatory bail. Anticipatory bail is sought in case a person feels that he or she may be arrested, and anticipatory bail is only granted in case of non-bailable offences, and the powers to grant anticipatory bails lies with High Court and the Sessions Court. So these are the basic information about bail, Enforcement Directorate and PMLA. Now here on the screen we have a practice question. Please do attempt it and let us know the answer in the comment section below. The next article is India has become the 7th largest producer of coffee in the world. So India, the 7th largest coffee producer in the world, it is a government data. So India has become the 7th largest producer globally with exports nearly doubling. The major buyers of India include Italy, Belgium and Russia. So this is the context. And the relevance of the topic is in the economic geography. We find questions in the examination from important crops, their trends, important producers and climatic conditions. So let's start. This is a map here, and here we have mentioned what all are the major producers of coffee in India. So as from the infographic, it is clear that Karnataka forms the largest chunk of coffee production, close to 75%. And Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, these are traditionally coffee growing areas. However, we also have certain non-traditional coffee growing areas, and these include Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Odisha, Tripura, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. So, and another fact which can be asked in the examination is India cultivates mostly Robusta and Arabica variety of coffee. But what is the total production of both and comparison between Arabica and Robusta? So from the infographic, it is clear that Robusta's production is way higher than Arabica's. So do keep this in mind that Robusta's production is way higher than Arabica's, and the traditional areas of coffee production are Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. However, we also have certain states where coffee is produced, but they are not the traditional states. Similarly, do prepare tea production. What are the major states and the minor states where tea is produced in India? The climatic conditions required for production of coffee. So the coffee plants requires hot and humid climate with temperature ranging between 15 and 28 degrees Celsius and the rainfall of 150 to 250 centimeter. So about moderate to high temperature plus a high rainfall, so hot and humid climate. Frost, snowfall, high temperature about 30 degree and strong sunshine is not good. So it is a crop which requires moderate yet humid climate, no cold, and it is generally grown under shady trees. So sunshine is not preferred by the crop. Dry weather is necessary at the time of ripening. Stagnant water is harmful and the crop is grown on a hill slopes at elevation from 600 to 1600 meters, and this provides well drainage. So no stagnant water due to slope. Then well drained loams contain a good deal of humus and minerals like iron, calcium and ideal for coffee cultivation. In India, coffee is largely cultivated in Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Odisha among others. Karnataka produces mostly over 70% of the total output. We have discussed this. Now, what are the trends? India's top export destinations. India's top export destinations for coffee are Italy, Belgium, Germany. However, there are other countries as well, such as Russia, UAE, and US. And India's export basket of coffee, these three countries contribute almost close to 20% of the coffee exports. Apart from this, what are the largest coffee producers of the world? In this, Brazil stands first, then Vietnam, then Colombia. As you can see, these three countries all are close to the equator. Then Indonesia, Ethiopia, Honduras, and the seventh is India. The largest exporters of coffee are, on the other hand, Brazil again remains the largest exporter. Then we have Colombia, and then Vietnam. So do remember these countries and also locate them on the map, and you'll find that while locating that these are close to the equator, and the conditions close to equator are suitable for coffee production. A similar question was asked in the last year's prelims examination about which is the largest producer of cocoa. So we can anticipate certain questions along those lines. Here we have a practice question. So here we have asked what are the major generally known tea producing states. So do answer this question and let us know in the comment box below. I hope you guys would have enjoyed the session and extracted valuable information. If you guys have any feedback, please let us know in the comment section below. Thank you.